Welcome back to Joe's Math Tools, where math is made easy. In our session today, this is part 4 on working through our fractions with PEMDAS. And in this question, we're working with 3 of our PEMDAS operation. And if you want to see how this is going to be solved, let's get started. So in our question today that we are solving involving PEMDAS, we're working with 3 of our PEMDAS operation, which is our parentheses, our multiplication, and addition. And in solving PEMDAS, we know that our parentheses comes first. So that means that every operation inside of my parentheses or my brackets, I will be calculating first before I work out anything on the outside. So let's get started. So in our parentheses, we have our 4/9 being added to our 2/5. Now, in this question, we're working with fractions with unlike denominators. So to add or subtract any fractions with different denominators, the first thing we need to do is find the LCD, or the lowest common multiple of our 9 and our 5. And the lowest multiple that these two numbers have in common would be 45. And we know that 45 is the lowest common multiple because 45 is the smallest multiple or the smallest number in their timetable that both 9 and 45 have in common. So let's begin with calculating or converting our fraction to their equivalent form. So with 9, we know that when I multiply 9 times 5, that gave me 45, which means that I will also multiply my 5 times 4 to get 20 in my numerator. And now we'll do the same thing to our next fraction. 5 times 9 gives us 45. So we will also multiply 2 times 9, which will give us 18. So now that our fractions are alike, we're going to now add the numerators, and our denominators will remain exactly the same. So when 20 is added to 18, we will get a numerator of 38. And our denominator of 45 will remain the same. So now I'm going to plug that fraction back into my question, and notice that I'm writing my answer underneath where my parentheses is. Now, I have to stress this step because when you're working with PEMDAS, and even though in this case we only have our fraction on the outside the parentheses and then those that are inside the parentheses in this particular question, you're going to find that at times when working through questions involving PEMDAS, that there are going to be multiple operations sometimes that you will have to solve. And you must remember to return that answer that you got from calculating the fractions or whatever part of the question you may be working out back to the spot where the question was removed from. So in this case, I'm making sure that I return my 3845 underneath my parentheses where 4/9 and 2/5 was added. And now I'm going to return my 1/2 back to my question exactly where it was, and returned my multiplication sign back to the question as well. So it's important that when you're working through questions involving PEMDAS, that all of your parts of your questions and the operation signs are all returned to their correct position. So now that we're done working through our parentheses, we're now going to perform our multiplication. And I will be multiplying my fraction where my numerator is multiplied to my numerator, and my denominator is multiplied to my denominator. And please remember that when you are multiplying fractions, we do not find the LCM or the LCD of our fractions. So do not perform the cross multiplication method. We just simply multiply our question straight across with numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So when I multiply 1 times 38, my product will be 38. And when I multiply 2 times 45, my product will be 90. Now for my last step, we are going to simplify our fractions. And remember that in simplifying your fraction, you just need to find a common factor that can divide into both 38 and into 90 without giving you a remainder. And since both of these numbers are even numbers, I will be dividing both of these numbers by 2. Because I know that every even number can be divided by 2, I know that both of these numbers can now be divided by 2. So when 38 is divided by 2, we will get the quotient of 19. And when 90 is divided by 2, we will get the quotient of 45. Okay, so there you have it. We just performed our PEMDAS to our question when we have 3 operations involved. And remember, as always, do get some additional practice in. And as always, I'll see you right here in the next session on Jules Math Tools, where the aim is always to make math easy.